Welcome back, everyone. When we left, the team was in trouble on two fronts. Most of the group was split up fighting the magical statues, while Anole had just escaped the underwater room with all four bracers. Let's check in now and see how Anole is doing with those elves. He's streaking through the water even faster than before, Zetabo. Did his sister give him another buff?
I doubt it, Sam. He was probably about as juiced up as he could be when he started. I expect this is just good old-fashioned adrenaline. Being chased by 20 armed guys on sharks will do that to you.
True, Z. I know I'd be going as fast as I could. The elves don't seem to be catching up to him, but we can see some more off to the side trying to flank him.
He has an advantage here, Sam. He's not trying to engage or outmaneuver them. He's just trying to get out of there as fast as he can. Because of that, he can really just focus on pure speed. Also, it looks like the elves behind him might have slowed a bit. Maybe his sister is slowing or weakening them.
You might be right, Zetabo. She is focused on something, completely avoiding the fight with the statues.
That has worked to get him halfway up the lake, and ahead of the group behind him, but the ones coming from the side seem to have an angle on him. I don't think he can get past them.
There's a group of about 10 elves riding on sharks coming in fast. They have their tridents straight out, ready to attack. Trailing them is a couple of pairs of elves with large nets, looking to trap Anole if he evades the attack.
These cavalry units are going to hit him hard, Sam. He took off his leather armor for extra speed. He might wish he had that now. I don't see how he can survive a charge from them.
Oh, it looks like he agrees with you, Zetabo. He's swerved off and he's diving down away from them.
Look at his sister, Sam. She has stopped her focus and is looking down into the water now. It looks like she's dropped whatever spell she was casting and is going to engage the new group directly. She has to be careful about what spells she wants to throw at them.
Won't the spells automatically be directed at the target? Why is that a concern?
It's because of the water, Sam. She doesn't want to cast a spell that will interact with the water and inadvertently affect her brother. Her spell selection is going to be very limited here.
Ah, okay, good point, Z. Anole is in all-out evade mode. He's no longer swimming in a straight line, but using a variety of moves to dodge the incoming attack.
That also causes the attackers to slow down to match his maneuvers. They won't be able to get a full power strike on him. Smart move on his part.
It looks like he's doing a great job of avoiding the cavalry, but the net teams have moved to cut him off. He could be in some trouble here. Think he's going to try that teleport trick again?
He may, Sam, but I think it's unlikely he'll have that spell ready again. I'm with you. It looks like he's running out of options.
He swooped to the side, does a barrel roll away from a trident, and is now heading straight for a net team. I don't think he can turn in time.
It looks like the cavalry are herding him to the net, Sam. He has the bracers, so they want to make sure to recover those first.
Oh, there goes Anela. She just dove into the water and is racing toward her brother. She shot off a small bolt of something towards one of the net teams. The shot streaked by them, but they had to move out of the way, and it caused them to lose their focus on her brother. He was able to avoid getting caught just in time.
She's coming to his rescue, Sam. We now have a solid battle on two fronts.
Speaking of battle, let's check in on the main fight. Gunza is still engaged with the two fire-wielding statues. He's taking some quick shots at the feet, ankles, and knees of them, knocking off a piece here or there, while running between them to keep them from tracking him.
I've never talked about an ogre being fast before, but compared to these statues, he's as deft as an elf. He's using his, quickness to keep them off balance. Since the first shot that hit the wall, they haven't had a good opening.
The lightning statues are tracking down the hallway towards a lane. The ice and life ones have parked themselves at the wall around the lake. What do you think they're doing, Zetabo?
It looks like they're waiting to see if Anole comes out of the lake with the bracers. Their primary function must be to protect those bracers. Since these two pair have not engaged anyone yet, they are getting as close to the bracers as they can.
Ah, interesting, Zetabo. Well, that works to help out the party. They don't have to fight all 8 at once.
Yeah, it's helping them, and probably a good thing. I think Guns and Elaine would be finished if they had to fight all 8 of these as an organized unit. Keep in mind, Sam, this is level 5 of the dungeon. These statues feel overpowered for this level, so I think the design team toned down their strategy to keep them from overwhelming the party. No one wants to see a TPK in the first room.
Good point, Z. Even if they are toned down a little, we still have quite a fight going on. The two fire statues seem to have gotten the best of Gunza. They have him cornered. That is, if you can get cornered in a round room. He's up against a wall now, though, and they are spaced out so that he can't run between them. How's he going to get out of this?
He's in a bit of a pickle, Sam. He managed to chip away at both of them, and they are looking pretty damaged. But one solid hit from either of them with all that extra fire damage, and he's down for the count.
One of them is winding up for an overhead blow, Z, and the other is in a defensive position to keep him from running. He's looking for somewhere to escape. Here comes the blow, down and... Oh, what? Its arm just exploded! The hammer it was carrying slammed up against the wall over Guns' head and bounced down the hallway.
What was that? Out of nowhere, its arm just blew off! Oh my! Now his head exploded! It's down! It almost hit Gunza when it toppled over!
What is going on here, Z?
Look! Look! Down the opposite hallway! Duarte is down there! We forgot all about him!
Oh my goodness, you're right, Zetabo. He has an enormous crossbow propped up with a tripod. That's the biggest crossbow I've ever seen, Z.
Holy smoke, Sam, that is huge! Where's he been hiding that thing? It's almost big enough to be classified as a war machine. It's so big he needs that tripod to stabilize and aim it. And look at the size of those bolts he's loaded into it. Whoa! He just fired off another and look at that momentum. Those giant bolts are flying so fast they just annihilate whatever they hit with so much energy.
Wow, Zetabo. He just took a leg off the other fire statue and blew a huge hole in the wall behind it. It's now wobbling, weaving, and down it goes! Well, just like that, Duarte has taken out 2 of these massive statues, just when it looked like the party had no answer for them. Guns is just standing there stunned.
Duarte certainly saved Guns' bacon, Sam. He probably thought he was done. They aren't out of the woods yet, though. That attack got the attention of the 4 on guard at the lake.
You're right, Zetabo. All 4 of them have turned to the hallway where the shots came from. Looks like one of each is going to confront Duarte.
Looking at his crossbow, Sam, I guess he has half a dozen, maybe 10 more shots in that magazine at most. I don't think you can take all 6 remaining statues with just that.
Go help Elaine, I got this!
Where is she? I don't see her.
She's down that hallway, about halfway, under some rubble.
On it.
Seems he doesn't agree with you, Zetabo. He sounded pretty confident.
From what I've seen, Sam, I agree in the short term. He should be able to handle the 2 that are coming for him, but that leaves 4 more. Maybe Elaine and Gunza together can keep the 2 lightning statues busy until the twins get out of the lake.
Thanks for that transition, Zetabo. Let's see how they're doing. In our last visit, Anole was about to get captured, but his sister dove into the lake and distracted the elves just in time. She keeps firing off bolts of energy at the elves. She hasn't been able to hit one yet, but she is keeping them busy.
I think that's her intention, Sam. Look at how the group is now scattered and more worried about her shots than Anole. She probably knows she can't take them all out, so she's just worried about distracting them to give her brother some room to operate.
That seems to be working, Z. Anole has been able to veer into some free space and has some open water in front of him. He turns the jets back on and starts streaking back to the surface. Anela has gotten dangerously close to those elves, though, Zetabo.
I think she feels they are too focused on the bracers, and they will leave her alone.
Oh, she guessed wrong there, Zetabo. A net team swung around behind and they have her. She's thrashing around in that net, but it looks like they have a good hold on her.
They sure do. She's really tangled up in that net. There's little she can do by herself against a dozen elves.
A couple of the knights have come up to her and they have their spears pointed right at her. They're letting her brother go. Is this just a revenge move?
No, Sam. I think they know they can't catch him in open water, so they are trying another tactic. They want to give him a reason not to run.
Anole has slowed down and he's looking back to see her situation. One of the knights swims out a little in front of the group. He's looking right at Anole and pointing at her. You're right, Zetabo. It looks like they're trying to make him to get a trade. Bracers for sister. Anole is floating there. Looks like he's weighing his options. Maybe trying to come up with a plan.
Maybe you're right. And don't forget, he and his sister can talk telepathically.
They'd better hurry. This battle they were in has taken some time. And the other elves he left behind are catching up.
Yeah, he needs to act, Sam. Once the rest get to them, there's nothing they'll be able to do. They can't take on 30-40 elves all by themselves.
He's made his decision, Zetabo. He's swimming back towards the group and his sister.
He's swimming back, but not that fast. Something's up here.
He's certainly not swimming back as fast as he was going away. There are now 4 elven knights on sharks with their spears pointed at the net Anela is in. They aren't being gentle either. They are taking the occasional poke at her just to remind Anole that they are serious. Now Anole has sped up a little. Looks like he's not happy with them sticking his sister.
I wouldn't be either, Sam, but there doesn't seem to be much he can do about it.
He's about halfway to them now. And look at that! A bunch of black... smoke? Is that coming from the net?
That's ink, Sam, like from a giant octopus. Look at how fast it's spreading. It will act like a smoke screen, that's for sure.
And just like that, Anole is back in full dive and heading right for the group as fast as he can. The knight out in front gets into a defensive pose, his spear facing forward. The knights who are guarding Anela are backing away, but taking random stabs into the net as they do.
He doesn't seem swayed by that, Sam. He's heading right for the front man.
He's moving in fast. The other elves are spreading out, looking to surround him. Just before he gets there, he pulls up, spreads his arms, and wow, a huge wave of force goes out from him in all directions.
That has to be quite a shockwave underwater, Sam. And his sister was right in the middle of it.
The elves all seem to have been stunned by it. It doesn't look like they were hurt too badly, but the sharks they were riding on aren't moving anymore. While they start to sink, the elves are recovering and trying to dismount. Anole makes a beeline for the cloud of ink.
What a great move, Sam. The elves didn't think he would cast any combat spells with his sister there. Instead of going for damage, he stunned everyone, including her. That should buy him enough time to get her and have a head start back up again.
The elves are off their sinking sharks and heading back to the ink cloud. Just like that, though, Anole shoots out of the top of the cloud, dragging his sister behind him, still in the net.
Another smart move by these two. They really have a head for tactics and changing up on the fly. It would have taken a long time to cut her out of that net. She may slow him down some, but the elves don't have their mounts anymore either.
Look at her legs, Edibo. It looks like she's bleeding, and pretty badly.
You're right, Sam. One of those spears must have made contact. That's a nasty gash.
They're off with a nice head start, and leaving a trail of ink behind them. The elves are in pursuit, but don't look to be a match now that Anole is out in front again. We'll keep an eye on this race while we have a look back up where they're heading.
Keep in mind, Sam, that they don't just have to get to the top. They have to get out. I don't think the elves will pursue them out of the water, but it's not like there's a nice ramp or set of stairs to get out of the lake easily.
And Anela is hurt badly.
Very true. That will not help. Plus, 2 of the statues are up there waiting for them.
That's a great point, Z. Not only will it not be easy to get out, there will be 2 angry statues waiting to push them right back in. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on them as they try to escape. Meanwhile, though, Gunza has made it down the hallway following the lightning statues that were going after Elaine. And we have Duarte lining up against the 2 coming for him.
Duarte has 1 cold and 1 life statue coming for him, while the other 2 of those pair are waiting for the twins.
Oh, not waiting anymore, Sedebo. The blue-eyed statue at the wall has just touched its hammer against the surface of the lake. A blinding flash of blue light, and look at that! The surface of the lake is frozen!
Oh, that could be good news for Anole and Anela. They can't get out!
Down the hallway, Duarte has his crossbow aimed at the other ice statue, which is in front of the life-enchanted one. He lets fly and wow! I mean, I've already seen this, but I'll never get used to seeing how much damage those shots do. He took a leg right off that statue, and the bolt kept going and took a chunk out of the one behind it.
It's simply amazing how much damage that crossbow puts out. Heck, I'm gonna start calling it a ballista. I mean, why not?
The ice statue is stumbling and getting in the way of the other.
I think that was his plan, Sam. He targeted the leg intentionally. He's taken them both out with 1 shot, and he can now focus on removing the other permanently.
Speaking of the life statue, it just kicked the cold one out of the way and is starting to wind up a swing at Duarte.
It's not close enough to make contact with him. It must be using its enchantment in this attack.
It slams its hammer on the floor. Chunks of rock go flying everywhere, and black tendrils, I guess, of energy reach out in all directions. One hits Duarte right on the chest. He screams out in pain as veins in his head, neck, and entire upper body swell. That looks awful, Sedebo.
Oh my, Sam, it's sucking his life energy out. I was wondering how a life enchantment would be used in an attack. They are using it to extract life energy. I agree with you, Sam, that looks horrible.
His entire upper body flexed from the attack, and he dropped his crossbow. It broke off from the tripod and slid across the floor.
That was definitely his primary weapon in this fight. I doubt it's damaged badly, but it's out of his reach. We'll see if he has any other ideas, or if he needs to recover the crossbow to keep up the fight.
Well, thankfully, the negative energy tendrils seem to have dissipated, but it looks like the damage was done. Duarte looks very weakened by that attack.
He sure does. His shoulders are slumped and he looks pale. He needs some help.
He's all alone in this hallway, Z. I don't see how anyone can come to his aid. Ah, but it looks like he has things in hand by himself. He's reached into one of his saddlebags and pulled out a flask. He fumbles a little with the top, but manages to get it off. He chugs it down quickly, spilling some down his chest. Looks like he's shaking, Zetabo.
Ah, of course. We should have suspected he'd pack a few healing potions. And this is certainly a good time to use one. Like you said, Sam, he's on his own now. He can't wait for aid. And you're right, he's very weak now. You could see his hand shaking as he was struggling with that cap.
Looking energized and the right color again, Duarte tosses the empty vial away and draws a warhammer off his back. It looks like he's going to face the life statue one-on-one.
I think you're right, Sam. He knows he has the speed advantage, so maybe he's going to take it on old school without all the gadgets. It will be exciting to see how he is as a hand-to-hand fighter. If you can call it hand-to-hand when your opponent is 4 times your size.
Hand-to-knee combat, maybe? He's ready to go, and he charges down the hallway, warhammer raised up and angled to the right. He looks all business.
He's doing a charge here, Sam. I expect he'd like to use his speed and size with something like a spear, but against a giant stone statue, that will just splinter and probably do more damage to the charger. The warhammer is a good choice here. Blunt force damage will be his best bet. His horse body will get a ton of momentum built up quickly, too.
He charges at the life statue while it is taking a wind-up to meet his charge. Duarte is in a full gallop and looks like he'll get there before the statue is ready for him. He dodges to the right over to the ruins of the cold statue. He hops up, lands on the head of the statue lying on the ground, and then takes a huge jump all the way to the chest level of the life statue.
What an athletic move, Sam! Not only did he move to where the rubble gave him something to launch off of, he also moved out of the way of the swing coming at him. That gave him a clear shot at the statue's exposed torso. Great move!
As he goes flying by, he takes a swing at the side of the statue, hits it square and knocks a chunk off of what I guess would be the ribs.
It was a solid strike, Sam, but clearly not as strong as it would have been if he was rooted to the ground. It knocked the statue off balance a little, but doesn't seem to have caused any major damage.
Duarte lands behind the statue and gallops off down the hall. He's headed for the middle of the room, maybe to join Gunza and Elaine.
That would be a solid plan, Sam. The 3 of them together will make a much more formidable opponent for these statues. Without that ballista he was shooting, they're just trying to stay out of the way.
Well, speaking of those 2, let's see how they're doing. When we left them, Elaine had pinballed down the hallway. The lightning statues were going after her, and Gunza had started down the hallway after them, now that the fire statues are bits on the ground. There's been a camera hovering around Elaine since she landed, and she's still down on the ground, covered by a small layer of some rubble. The 2 lightning statues are closing in on her. And with that, we'll take another break. But we won't be long, so stay tuned and find out what happens next.
Are you tired of being like everybody else? Do you want to be a god? You think you have what it takes to be one of us? Come on down to the Warriors of the Gods Academy and Training Grounds and find out if you're a wimp or you're a warrior. Unless you're afraid of a little of your own blood. Gates are open on Saturdays if you aren't scared.